should I probably get closer to you? Where do people normally sit?
Dude, that's the thing. I have this whole philosophy of like the way people are by where they pick to sit.
I believe it.
So the closer you sit to me, the more comfortable you are with me at first or whatever, or maybe, or it depends on how cool you are, man. Because if you're cool, you'll sit on the far side.
Like the furthest corner.
Yeah. Wear shades. They always wear shades.
Oh, I'm not cool enough for shades. Trying to find my spot. Don't mind me. This seems really comfortable. This seems a little bit too close. I'm gonna go on this side. Really, the middle would be perfect, but I gotta choose.
It's got that rod right there.
Yeah, I gotta choose a side.
It makes it uncomfortable.
So I'm gonna do this.
Oh man, you're my first episode I've done in like quite a few weeks actually.
Oh wow!
I did that live stream Saturday, and dude, I had to do like weeks worth of prep for that shit, dude. It's like you're like a commentator at a sporting event, you know. But I'm not that at all. And like I'm like, all right, I gotta remember what to say. I'm gonna be live when I say it, so I can't mess it up.
You know that's right across from my house. Where that,
is that really?
Where that private like
no way
concert fest is? Yeah.
That's sweet. You should.
Dude, I wanted to. I didn't know about it until Noah hit me up, and he's like, "Hey man, like I'm pulling this up, and it's right across the street from your house."
Oh, absolutely.
Should I? I'm not sure. Should I just do this?
If you want to do that, you can totally do that. If you're comfortable doing that.
Otherwise,
I'm more comfortable with you doing that if you're comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to be like 2 feet away from the mic, and
that's okay.
You have to compress the shit out.
I normally have fun with that. I let people just kind of do what they want. I'll just turn it up, turn it down. Sometimes it's very, sometimes it's... But you know how to work a mic, so I'm not worried about it.
This is how I... do Beats and Brews, and I found it. This is first off, I have something to do with my hands, and so that helps.
You're not Ricky Bobby pulling your hands.
Exactly, and then I'm not like the loudest of speakers, so you could actually hear me.
All right, well, I'm gonna count us in, and then we're gonna rock this one. Gotta look around and just make sure everything.
Everything's in place.
Oh yeah, it's a one-man show, man. I'm all by myself.
Yeah.
No, I have Caden. He helps me a little bit with the camera stuff, but he's at work, unfortunately. I'm all by myself.
Well, I'll make it easy on you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1. You talking to me? I'm talking to you. And this is Talking to Me, Talking to You. And I am joined by Aaron Roy.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you so much for coming out. I'm glad to get you out. I can't remember actually how we ended up booking this, but
I remember.
You remember? Can you please iterate to me? Because my memory's shot.
It's we were both at Matt Waters'
Monday Muse. I do remember us having a conversation. I didn't know that's where we booked that at. Wow.
Yeah. You were sitting with my wife and I, and we were having a good conversation, and I was actually surprised because you like just threw out a date on the spot.
Yeah, I love doing that. I get my phone out and go,
let's do it. Otherwise, if you don't, everyone just says, "Oh yeah, let's get together sometime," and it never happens.
Yeah, there's the people you can kind of put it out to, and then come back and like send a message later. But that's up to you remembering and putting effort into making that happen. That's why I love just like, oh, you want to do it? All right, well, let me get my phone out real quick.
Let's make it work.
And make it work and get a date. Cool. Well, thank you, man, for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
That was a great conversation that we had that night. We talked a lot about why we do our individual little shows, kind of. Because you do a show, Beats and Brew. I want to talk about that a little bit in a second. I kind of want to get to what you are as a profession and what you do most of, which is drumming. You're a professional drummer.
Yes, sir.
Dude, so here's my consensus on that. I know a lot of musicians. I know a lot of multi-musicians. I actually rarely know specialist musicians that like know and train one instrument and don't really kind of like, they may know some things here and there, but they don't like mess with them. They just kind of completely focus on one thing to like kind of like that 10,000 hour thing, you know what I mean? Like and you're one of those people, and I find that really interesting, and I just kind of wonder what really kind of got you and interested in the drums.
Well, so my dad was a professional drummer.
Obviously, okay.
So I
that
grew
makes
up
sense.
with music and drums in the house, and my dad was a professional touring drummer at one point in his life, and eventually settled down, had kids. And so I was in third grade and saw his drums stacked up in the corner, not set up or anything, and really just kind of bugged him to set him up. And he was like, all right, well, hey, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. And showed me some basic beats, the names of all the drums and cymbals and the pieces of hardware. And it came like quite naturally to me. And that same year, I did like a little drum clinic for my music class.
Okay.
And which was really cool. And it just like, before I knew it, I was like Aaron Roy, the drummer. People just knew me as the drummer, because when you're in third grade and you play an instrument,
Yeah.
it was kind of.
So how old were you when you started playing?
I think I was like 8 years old.
Okay, so you was really early.
So I was pretty young, and like I said, took to it quite naturally. You know, it's in my blood, and I absolutely loved music. I grew up with like classic rock in the house,
Yeah.
like, and that morphed into other genres, but I was just heavily into music. Styx, Leonard Skinner, Aerosmith, AC/DC. And so, yeah, I took to the drums. I was very fortunate to have drums in the house and never had to like beg my parents to buy a drum set. And I was very fortunate to have that privilege and kind of skipped the beating on pots and pans stage. And, and then had a dad and mom that was super supportive and never had any issues with me practicing as much as I did, and was always encouraging and would even like go to my gigs and help me set up and tear down. And
oh wow, well that makes a lot of sense then, man. I mean, it makes a lot of sense in that why you really have kind of like focused in on that instrument. Your dad being a drummer, and being able to teach you all of the ins and outs, the little, like the very small details. Like I mean, drums, the instrument in general, is one of the most hardware heavy,
unfortunately,
instruments there is. And so I mean, that just being meticulous is something that you got to learn at a young age, and so that makes a lot of sense of why you really stepped into it.
I doubled down.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point where I did learn the guitar, and I was in a couple bands playing guitar, and that was fun. But at the end of the day, it was really clear that like I'm a drummer, and that's what I do best.
Drums is your home.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't want to see me be the guitar player in a band. Like, it's just going to be Blink-182 covers.
So I met you through Noah Smith. You play with him. He's one of the many numerous bands you play with. I know you playing with him, and I met Damon. Damon Mitchell. Yeah. I met him at one of the. I think it was at that Monday Muse.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I've seen you play with him. So like, who else do you play with and around with?
Well, being a freelance drummer, it comes in waves.
Yeah, I know. I noticed you have a lot of different people you do.
This year, at the moment, I just played with Ryan Broshear for the first time last week. I play a lot with Billy Brown. He's one of the main guys that I play for. I play for a church in Loveland called Branches every Sunday that I'm in town.
So are you like touring out a lot, going to a lot of different like states and locations?
It comes in waves. So far this year, I've played a lot locally, but the last few years, it's mostly been traveling. Probably a little, maybe 50-50 with the traveling versus playing here in town.
Okay.
So it comes in waves. I'm playing with Ashley Martin this year, Lexi Dunn, a lot with Damon. I've got another acoustic duo called Echo Wave with my buddy Ben. Man, who else? My buddy Doug Sutton. I just started playing with a corporate wedding band called Blue Water Kings.
Yeah,
which
that's
Nick
Heffron's in that.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember him mentioning that to me on the podcast, and then you're like, "Yeah, I played when I first met you at that Noah show. I think it was at Clearwater
Food Park.
Yeah. And And you were like, yeah, I play in this band, and then you said that band name, and I'm like, man, why does that sound so familiar?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know them. And it's just funny, ironic. See, like, that's a cool, because that's one of them. Like you said, it's like a corporate wedding kind of band.
And
so those are big hitters, I'd assume. All those guys are big hitters.
Yeah.
I think that's what I remember Nick saying.
Awesome musicians, a lot of classically trained musicians and jazz guys. So it's a completely different world.
Yeah, you get a lot of experience of a lot of really talented guys playing with, man. I can imagine, like how much knowledge you've just retained and just by like, being able to sit in with
exactly
the great, because dude, you just named like probably 10, 13 different bands. I'm assuming you've played with hundreds of people, man. That's
I guess when you break it down, at least dozens and dozens of people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, especially with cats like Billy Brown, he has a large network of musicians, and so almost every show it's like a different guitar player, different bass player. There's core members, but still
you get to see how different bands and different like projects work in the sense of like the same show. Like you're playing a stage every time, but you see how different shows are. So like I guess my question would be, playing with all these different types of artists and such, what's your like favorite music to kind of like jam?
That's a good question. I play a lot of rock and country.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about how we like post-hardcore and
Like, if I really had it my way, I would probably play like screamo and like post-hardcore stuff.
I used to play that. I'm in that alley.
But the reality is there's not a lot of that here in Cincinnati, and especially if you want to pay some bills playing music, I found that I'm booked the most with country music, and I like country and I love rock, and it all works out. But not necessarily like if. It's not necessarily my first choice of music that I'd really want to play.
Of course, yeah.
But also with my wheelhouse as a drummer, I feel like the genre fits really well, because I consider myself like meat and potatoes type of drummer. Okay. I love playing double bass and all that stuff, but the reality is none of my gigs require any double bass or any crazy fills.
It's just a good night out for you, like a good night on the job. Like you don't have to like overwhelm yourself with the amount that you're about to do, like some of the guys do. Seeing the metal drummers and what they do, especially with double bass, man, those guys, they got to work out.
Yeah, it's a whole other level
to do what they're doing. They have to like do workouts and regimens with their bodies to perform, which is insane to me.
It is. It really is. But yeah, I'm not in any metal bands. It'd be fun. But right now I've got enough different gigs to keep it interesting. And I just had my first real Blue Water Kings wedding. Okay. And that was really cool because it was a lot of like Marvin Gaye,
oh, nice.
And
the hits.
Yeah, the hits, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And that's
all fun.
Yeah,
that's
it's fun and funky and groovy and just a completely different style than what I've been really diving into the last few years. And so that was a nice change of pace. And, playing Stevie Wonder tunes and stuff. So, everything just keeps it fresh and funky, and especially when I'm learning originals.
Yeah.
That's always a little bit trickier because they're not songs that you've heard your whole life on the radio, and you got
to go in and find the meticulous patterns,
and every artist is a little like their songs are their babies, and so you don't want to show up to a gig and
not know the shit.
Yeah. So
and I think you playing with the amount of people and all the different types of music and artists you do play with, I feel like it kind of gives you like that secret weapon in your back pocket to be able to adapt into this stuff, because like you're and being a specialist in one instrument, like that opens you up to learn all of the songs in that one instrument instead of like, oh, well, I know how to play these songs on drums, and I know how to play these songs on guitar, and I know how to play these songs on bass, because that's my issue. I play different songs on all my instruments.
Well, that's really cool though, because then you have a different perspective.
For sure.
And that's really helpful.
That is, 100%. Just, it is a cool perspective. Yeah, and that's what's cool about music and just experiencing things, in your own journey. You get to, kind of make up your own rules per se. Because I learned like cover songs, like learn how to play guitar and instruments. I learned a lot of cover stuff and other people's music, and then like my friends like Jimmy Klepper, he's purely wrote his own music since he started playing music. So he doesn't have like a reference to like if I make a song, it's gonna sound like something else per se. But he's just gonna make something that sounds like him because that's all he's done, kind of thing. That's special. It's very cool. It's a unique perspective I like to look at. But talking more on perspective and talking points and stuff. You do kind of like a talking show with for drummers. It's called Beats Brews, correct? Yeah. So I find that very interesting because it's very similar to like this. It's a sit down kind of conversation, but you guys are playing beats and kind of inspirations and what you guys learned as drummers. I seen the one with Nick Heffron. Yeah. I loved that.
Thank you.
Because Nick's like one of the multi-instrumental guys, but,
super talented.
But he seems to kind of find himself in a lot of like bands playing drums. So
a lot of bands need drummers around here, so it's cool job security.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Drums and basses, man. You don't find many of them in Cincinnati unless they play another instrument, and then that's where you find them. I was just having that conversation, man. Every rock band's bassist is just a
guitar
player that wants to play the rhythm guitar.
Yeah, which that is. You're not wrong, but it really is special when you find someone that is really just dedicates their life to playing bass.
Yeah, it is. It's a special thing, like you said. It's special. Yeah. Yep. It's special to be a specialist.
Well, a lot of people see bass players as like failed guitar players, and that's not true. No, but they get a bad rap for that. Yeah. And so when you do play with a bass player that just absolutely loves bass and everything about it, and that's their only instrument, you can tell a difference.
Yeah, well, I mean, the rhythm section always gets a bad rap. Always, it seems like it's like unless you're the guitarist, the singer, you don't get
prima donnas
lights on you. It's like, how come you guys got all the stage lights on you? I need some lights on me back here.
Yeah, and it takes me the longest to set up and tear down. So like. Get the short end of the stick every gig.
But no. So so you do that show though? What kind of inspired you to do that?
I would say, at the time, I was listening to a podcast called The Drummer's Resource a lot, and it really inspired me to get even nerdier with drums and having conversations.
Because you weren't nerdy enough
drums.
Already.
Exactly, and. So I think that was probably a big inspiration. And then at the time, it was shortly after my dad passed away.
Okay.
And I needed some like positive things in my life to just kind of keep my mind off of some of the negatives. Yeah. And so that I spent a lot of time with Beats Brews, and that's I had the same kind of setup as you now, where I would pre-record it and then edit everything in post-production, and that was very time consuming. There was a lot of learning curves with video editing and lighting techniques, and also just like putting yourself out there as, when you're a drummer. I'm used to just being in the back, setting up, playing, tearing down.
You don't have them spotlights on you.
Like I don't have the spotlights, and I don't really like the spotlights. Yeah. But so it was it got me out of my shell a little bit.
Put you in the position of like where you didn't have much of a choice. You had to be the guy.
Exactly.
Per se.
And so that was.
Wow, what a place to find after like such a tragic moment in your life. Like, like your father passing, and then you can find a way to kind of weirdly get out of your shell kind of more, as a human being. Wow, that's impeccable, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. So that was a nice distraction.
Yeah, for sure.
But most importantly is I found that the community with the drummers that I had on the show was amazing and really gave me a foundation to build friendships with those
Amen,
drummers and guests. And so I did like 9 or 10 episodes and just got really busy. My gigs started to pick up.
I'm interested. I mean, conversations, you know, like just people sitting down and talking about their experiences. I mean, that's the whole reason I do this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like yours is more of a niche, but like it's still in that niche. You find all that same, you know, qualities of conversation, you know.
Yep.
Beginning of this podcast, that's like the main like conversation topic we had at Monday Muse was like why me and you kind of do the shows and why we started doing them and why we do them now. And it all kind of rotates around just being able to talk to people and like open yourself up as much as you want to open other people up, because we want to be friends with everybody. I want to know people, and it's hard to do that because you kind of block yourself from doing that by not like saying what you wanted to say when you thought it, you know, because you thought, I'm just too awkward, or I'm this. I don't.
Aren't we all?
I don't want to put myself in this position, or you know, this and that, and just not saying what you want and just being open to conversation. But I think that in doing that, with like what you do and I do, it's opened up another part of our mind and brain and like personality to allow us to be ourselves more. I know that guy. I know that person. I've been at that show. We hung out here, you know, different stuff like that. And even within the small town we've known each other, we can say that. And that's what's cool. Me and Roy didn't know each other last year, but we've been in a bar together, hung out, had a great conversation. You've been on my show. I've seen a few shows you played out.
Yep.
What do you call that?
Friendship.
You know what I mean?
And also the reality to that is you do see a lot of familiar faces at shows, but it's loud. There's a lot going on. People are working. And if people aren't working, then they're there to enjoy themselves, and maybe they're hanging out with a lot of friends and a little preoccupied. And so you might see someone a lot at a bar or at shows, but sometimes you don't really get the quality time with them. And it's just, you know, you clap hands, you say, hey, what's up? And that's it.
Yeah.
But something like this now is great. Like we're hanging out, we're
breaks
talking.
all that down.
It really does.
You know, and so it's a beautiful thing, man. I'm really like, it's inspiring that you found that in the place that you did in your life. And I'm excited to see you continue doing it, man.
Thank you.
Who's gonna be your next guest?
That's a great question. I don't have the next one scheduled yet because mainly because there's going to be some major construction in my studio. I didn't want to get too bombarded and overwhelm myself, so I want to get that over with, because my initial goal is to have one every month. And I stuck to that the first few, and then our basement started flooding, which is where my studio is, so that kind of takes priority with the scheduling. After that's done, and then also it's like the busy season, so things are really crazy right now, but I have a whole list of drummers that I want to have on the show and that I've talked to, but I technically don't have the next one lined up yet.
I'm excited to see it. What kind of names do you got on the list? Would you mind give me 3?
My buddy in Nashville, Casey Todd. He's also a freelance drummer, plays for a Canadian country artist named Aaron Goodvin.
I like the sound of that, Canadian country artist.
Yeah.
Canadian country. What does Canadian country sound like? Is it similar to American country?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
it just sounds special.
They just talk a lot about hockey. And,
that makes sense.
That's funny. Jeremy Miller, he plays for Michelle Robinson.
Okay.
My good buddy Chris Sarvak plays bass in that band, and they're booked all over town. And he just moved here, I think maybe last year, the year before, from Los Angeles area. Okay. I don't know him too well, honestly, but he also has a studio, does a lot of remote recording work like I do. Is booked silly, so He seems like he'd be a great guest. He's also reached out and said, "Hey man, I'm really trying to like get my finger on the local Cincinnati drumming community. Back in LA, we would get together for coffee every week or every month, and there was like a strong community of drummers."
Wow, that's interesting.
And he's like,
of drummers
and
not musicians,
just drummers,
not like a bands and scene, just drummers.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so it's like, wow,
that's very interesting.
I don't know of anything like that here.
No,
and
we don't even have guitarists or singers to get together, man.
I know.
And they got the spotlight.
That's got to change. And so I
change that.
I really appreciate that. And I feel like what I do helps bring the community of drummers.
Yeah.
So I definitely
100%.
I'm going to get him on
Which
there.
I relate to that. Like I feel like you saying that a community of drummers in LA that gets together for like coffee and discusses, oh hey, what kind anything of that sort. I mean, man, it'd be so important to get that going just in a general standpoint here in the city. Wow. That's a good perspective. That's a good idea. We're gonna jack that one.
Exactly. And that wasn't even my idea. But
it's a great one.
I'm looking forward to hanging out with him eventually and picking his brain on just everything.
Well, and like because you seem to have played out so much and so many different people. You have like your network seems very vast. So just to get like the opportunity for like. For people to hear other people's perspectives that what I mean, is a joy too, because there's you work with so many different people having on, and they may be like I said, they're just drummers. It's a niche, but like I said, you get these people's life experiences too. Like this guy played on this record and did this and did that, but it took him 10 years to find the right band, you get these stories and of how people made it to where they made it, and that's special, man.
It really is, and there's so much to learn from everybody, and especially, if you play drums or if you're a photographer for full time. Well, it doesn't even matter whether if it's full time. Yeah, but whatever you're into, find other people that are into the same stuff and talk to them, and 10 out of 10 times you're going to learn something from each other, and that's the beauty of it. And so that's just one of the golden nuggets that is a byproduct of having Beats and Brews. And I'm looking forward to having more episodes. I really admire what you're doing because you're pumping them out left and right, and the consistency is inspiring, because that is the quickest way to fall off anything is to not be consistent with it, whether it's working out or eating healthy or anything in life. Is consistency is key. And so I'm really bummed that my episode isn't happening this month, but life happens. And
100%. You got to take care of your needs and well-being stuff first, and what's important, like your studio not getting flooded.
Dude, like the last live was with David Nestor, and he actually just had his first show with Aaron Lewis last night, and we're sitting there live on Facebook, and it was pouring, raining, and my basement's flooding like 10 feet away
as it's happening, and it's just you're trying not to break character live.
Exactly. It's a little defeating, like, and then you spend hours leading up, like dialing in the mix, and then you have a great time with a friend coming over and drinking a little bit, and then it's like, okay, well now I gotta pack the drums up and all the audio equipment and the video equipment and get the water vacuum out and tend to the basement, and that's
fix it all, man.
That's life in Ohio.
That's what it's about too, man. Everyth's not all beautiful. Sometimes there's mayhem in this beauty the world gives us.
Exactly. So what's the main takeaway from your seat, because I'm just hanging out with drummers, you're hanging out with everybody?
So I guess my main takeaway, man, is like people are much more willing to talk to you than you think they are. I've been in this music scene specifically for about 5 years now, and then I kind of decided myself to finally like put myself out there, because I've played music. I tried to get bands. We did a show that was similar, but I directed it. I wasn't like the guy per se, the host, the guy on the camera. And I made a lot of relations through that, and like kind of like, you know, those faceless relations, like, oh, I see you, I know kind of who you are, but we don't know each other. Like there's, you know, what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And so this has taught me, by talking to the vast amount of different people and from all different walks of art and life and stuff, is that they're willing to talk to me as much as I want to try to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
But like I had to find it myself first to do that, and this show was like that kind of like forcing my hand thing.
Yeah,
kind of like what you were talking
exactly.
about. And so that's the beauty of just being yourself. Like I am putting myself on a camera. There's no real massive point besides to showcase who comes onto my couch. I talk a little bit about what I do, but mostly it's about what other people do.
Yeah.
And because I want to get other people's experiences, and it feels nice to be able to connect with people without me being like secluded, like is what I've done for most of my life, because I've always been an awkward kid, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And but now I've kind of taken that awkwardness to heart. Like it's like, oh well, that's just who I am.
Embrace
I just
it.
need to be that.
Yeah.
And just jump in people's face and
Double down on
not
it.
give a fuck if they think I'm a dork, if I'm goofy, if I'm a fuck up or whatever. It just, that doesn't matter anymore, because what life has taught me is like human relations, this right here, this is what's important. Most people are going to have a great time with you, and they're going to be human beings, and they're going to enjoy your company, and they're going to have good conversation. Even if you disagree. And that's kind of what been my biggest take is like, we're all here just to have fun, man. Just get to know each other.
Yeah.
That's it. Like just get to know each other. It'll be better for all of us. It'll be communal. Like the drummers getting together.
Yep.
And getting coffee.
Yeah.
Who the fuck thought of that? Drummers just getting together and getting coffee.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Like
that's a great idea.
We haven't even gotten together yet, and like I've got ideas.
We just need people to get together and get coffee in the city. Like we only have just
it doesn't have to be drummers, but you guys can come too whenever, if that ever happens.
But yeah, that lesson is mostly it. I know I kind of elaborated a lot, but
no, it's great.
But it is. It's a vast thing. It's a psychological thing for me. It's embracing being a person while also embracing other people. Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's kind of what it is.
That's great. I mean, I think anytime that you put yourself out there, anyone's going to judge, and that's just a part of the process. And you just can't think about it, and sometimes it's harder than others.
It is. And sometimes it's always hard for certain individuals. Like I find, life is like half and half. Like half the time, like it's really easy and I'm having a great time, and then half the time it's sluggish, and you got to really put yourself in the mindset to do it. The perfect mix is that yin yang kind of ideal of positive negative reinforcement.
Yeah, man.
Bad shit kind of teaches you how to deal with it, and then good stuff kind of teaches you how to embrace it,
And you appreciate the good times because of the bad times.
Exactly. Well, Aaron, dude, I've enjoyed the shit out of having you here, man.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you so much. Come back anytime, seriously.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you so much.
I don't play drums, but maybe I can sit in on a beat and brew.
Yeah, man, that'd be a good time.
I'll be the first audience clapping in the background.
You and my wife will be like drinking wine behind the
Yeah,
cameras.
that'd be great. That'd be great.
She's switching.
I met you. I didn't introduce myself to her. I felt so bad after we talked for like 30 minutes. She was just sitting there like listening. I'm like, shit. See, that's the stuff I'm talking about. That feeling of like, oh, I feel bad that I didn't converse with a human being and just show that compassion. But it is what it is. I'll talk to her next time.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another beautiful thing about Beats and Brews is not only do the drummers come in and we build a relationship together, but it's also my wife is there because she's helping out and switching the camera angles live. And like when Nick came, his girlfriend Hillary came, and now like we're all just closer friends. And then when David came, Dave Nestor, actually the day or two after that, we drove up to Dayton and went to a brewery with him and Carrie, his girlfriend. And so it's just relationship building.
It's a beautiful thing, man. It really is. It really is a beautiful thing. Aaron,
thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next time.
Yes.
This has been Talking Me Talking You. Thanks for watching.